This is the first time Diddy and Cassie have seen each other in something like 6 years. And she walks in the room very, very pregnant, looking beautiful in this dress. And as she walks by him, he turned and clocked her, but she did not turn her head to acknowledge him at all. And then on the stand, you couldn't really see if she was looking at him, but he was most certainly looking at her and taking notes as she was talking and testifying.
What was she saying while he was looking at her taking notes?
Pretty much every answer she gave, specifically when they were asking questions that were sexual in nature or about violence, he was taking notes that sort of entire time. And you can tell with her demeanor on the stand how nervous she was. She was very, quiet at first, didn't really know how to position the microphone, and she didn't seem to really want to answer any of those more pressing questions about their sexual relationship or romantic relationship. She would often kind of pause, take a deep sigh, sort of rub her belly at times. Like I said, she's very, very pregnant. So it did seem that she struggled with some of the questions, not with her responses. She knew exactly what she was talking about, but you could tell she really didn't want to talk about things like the sexuality or the violence that she said she incurred at his hands. So right off the bat, the prosecution started asking about that nature of their relationship, about things about those freak-offs and about the violence. So Cassie testified that she didn't know what version of him she would get when she saw him. And then once they established their romantic relationship, she said it turned violent very, very quickly. And he would do things like hit her, kick her, particularly in the face when she was down. She said that he would drag her at times. I mean, we've seen that video, which she also established that 2016 hallway video happened after a freak-off. That's new information that we hadn't known up until this point. But she really didn't seem to want to go into the details about the violence. So the prosecution did have to press her a few times to, can you clarify that? Can you explain that? Because she just really struggled to relive this part of her life. So their relationship started really early. She was roughly 19 when she met him, and their relationship kind of got underway when she was about 21. By the time she was 22 years old, she said that she was getting introduced to these freak-offs, a term that up until that point she had not heard. And as part of them, she, under this direct examination and under oath, told the jury that she was forced to engage in sex with male escorts, male prostitutes, while her boyfriend at the time, Diddy, watched. And she said she didn't really want to do it, but she did it because she loved him. She wanted to make him happy. She was in love at the time, young and naive, she said. The way the government is kind of laying the foundation of their case, they first established how they had a professional platonic working relationship. She said, he was in control of my career was in his hands. Then the relationship turned sexual and romantic. She said she fell in love. She was very naive. So you can see how these two things come together, and then all of a sudden the freak-offs are introduced. She went from having she said a 10-album deal with Bad Boy Records, and he was calling all the shots, to recording one album and not releasing any others, because her relationship and her job kind of became one and the same. She said these freak-offs, this is what she's telling the jury, she told the jury that these freak-offs left her very little time to do anything else. So she went from being a new up-and-coming artist to someone who was kind of professionally, sexually gratifying the man that she was in love with, who simultaneously was in control of her career.
How long did these freak-offs usually last?
This is a moment that I think the jury, very stoic, they don't react, but the people in the gallery and the people in the overflow room really did react to when you find out that from her, point of view, she's living in these freak-offs for days at a time. 36 hours, she kind of made that the minimum, to 3-4 days where she would have to take breaks to recuperate, to rehydrate, because she would be dehydrated, plied with alcohol, doing drugs, all, she said, under his direction.
Could you explain why Cassie's husband had to leave the courtroom at one point?
So it's interesting. Alex Fine is Cassie's husband. We actually saw him go into court yesterday, so we all thought she was perhaps going to testify then. He tried to go into the main courtroom. He got escorted out and sat in one of the overflow rooms where I was at today. So he tried to watch those proceedings. As her husband, she is so pregnant right now with their third child. He's her support system. So he's sitting in the courtroom as her support. But it's possible that depending upon what she testifies to under direct examination, the defense may need to call him to what they call impeach that. So they're going to need to clarify some things and question him. So he needs to leave the courtroom per the judge's rules so that he isn't influenced by her testimony, people who are considered witnesses. And he's not on the witness list yet, but people who are witnesses can't sit in the courtroom. So he needed to leave when she started talking about sensitive things that he may need to go to the stand to talk about, specifically the 2018 alleged rape.
Thank you very much. So did you see him today in the overflow room?
We were in different overflow rooms. This is what's particularly crazy about this case. Sometimes you don't get a single overflow room with a court case. With a case of this magnitude, maybe you'll have one. There are sometimes 2 or potentially 3 being opened up here because there is so much public interest and interest within the media of this case.
Did you see your husband at all, or Cassie, anybody at all today walking throughout the courthouse?
No, they keep them protected. You know, one of the things everyone who is out here is looking at is where was Cassie going to walk in? Everyone was waiting. Well, they actually brought her in a separate entrance so that she didn't have to deal with the throng of media outside.
Talk to me about the moment where Cassie was like putting her hands on her belly and then what seemed like she was dabbing her eye with a tissue.
Yeah, I clocked her kind of dabbing her eye and her nose with the tissue. I gotta tell you, out here in New York right now, allergies are really bad, so I couldn't tell whether or not she was crying. She didn't sound choked up, so it could have been that, but she definitely sort of shifted in her chair a few times and petted her pregnant belly, maybe to kind of soothe herself, but also because those chairs are really uncomfortable.